Welcome. If you're a woman who has a sense that there's more out there for you, you're in the right place. I'm Whitney Baker, host of the Electric Ideas podcast. Somewhere along the line of work and kids, life carried on, but I lost track of my truth. I'm on a reflective journey, and that's what this podcast is all about. Each week, I interview a woman who is lighting her own path and offering others hope. Before our conversation ends, we'll share a reflective question for you to explore. Sometimes all we need is a jolt, a fresh idea, an aha moment that connects us to a sense of possibility. This, my friends, is what I call an electric idea. Welcome back to Electric Ideas. I'm your host, Whitney Baker. If you are someone who's ready to shake up the typical push-through model of productivity that so many of us have been taught and modeled, and perhaps start stepping into your visions for your life with a bit more flow, this episode is for you. I am so excited to welcome Theresa Lear Levine to the show. Theresa is an emotional freedom technique master practitioner. If you're not familiar with EFT or tapping, that's okay. You're going to learn a little bit more about that today. Theresa is also a hypnotherapist, coach, and author of the best-selling book, Becoming More Me. Today, we're diving into a conversation that might challenge the way you think about bringing your life's visions to fruition. We talk about first the importance of getting clear on what we want in various aspects of our life. And then we dive into practices and tools to help you align your energy and emotions with your actions in a way that for some of you might challenge your notion that success can only come from grinding. I know you're going to have lots of inspiring takeaways today, so let's get into it. Hi, Theresa. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Whitney. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure. I want to dive right in because I think a lot of people feel that they want this clear vision for their lives and they kind of poke around. Maybe they do a vision board or they write out goals, but they feel like they just are missing the implementation part. Can you start by telling us why it's important to have a clear vision?
Yeah, absolutely. Vision is super duper important because we act on the things that we feel. And when we visualize, we connect with a feeling. And then when we're in that feeling, we create a vibration. And from that vibration, we attract things that are like that vibration. So the feeling that precedes the action that we take is more important than just trying to take the action. So that's why vision's so important. I've had a vision casting method that I've used for years now, and it's definitely been something that has allowed me to bring a lot of things into my physical reality that I don't think would have happened so easily or so pleasurably if I wasn't, implementing that kind of a practice.
I know your vision casting method goes far beyond, which maybe you think affirmations are a little bit limited. However, I am curious about your take on affirmations because I think they're in the water right now. I think people are seeing them and really aren't sure, is this like a little quote or is this something I'm supposed to be doing something with? And I feel like we could use a little bit of education from your perspective of a hypnotherapist about why affirmations work. And then on a practical level, like, how do we figure out what affirmations might be for us? And when do we actually use them if you think they are still a good tool?
Affirmations are beautiful. At the end of the day, affirmations are a beautiful tool. It's lovely to be able to have something positive to say. Just doing that is going to raise your vibration. However, what I tend to see when people set big goals and then try to back them up with an affirmation is this goal trauma almost. Like there's too big of a gap between what they're affirming and where they feel like they are. And a lot of times I think that sets people back. They are powerful tools because we can consciously shift when we're thinking about the subconscious mind and everything else. We can consciously shift our mindset by stating positive beliefs about ourselves. It's like planting seeds in the mind. And it's a lot of what happens when, we're in trance and hypnosis and having the subconscious mind reprogrammed, maybe with thoughts like, I am capable, or I'm worthy of success, or I'm a peaceful parent during the holiday season, or whatever feels challenging at the time, especially if we're starting from a place of doubt. Our subconscious mind has to believe in what we are doing. But I really do like affirmations, which are a concept and a word from Noah St. John, if you're familiar with his work at all. And that's where instead of just saying, I am capable or I am enough, we're asking questions that go right into the brain, right into the subconscious that help us look for and be aware of those answers throughout our day. So instead of saying, I am capable, you might say, what would it take for me to feel capable at XYZ? And that actually will work for you while you're sleeping. That will work for you around the clock when you ask questions like that. The brain responds to questions. The brain does not respond to statements. So that's where I think that affirmations do lose some of their power and their ability to really be leveraged for greater success.
Can you walk us through this? Maybe perhaps like a common stumbling block, some of the women, your clients, you see something that stands between them and leveling up their lives, and how you might use this affirmation to kind of step through this block, like how they would apply it and where?
Yeah. So if we're talking about moms, which I know are a big topic that you like to focus on, I think a common stumbling block with moms is the struggle to prioritize themselves without feeling guilty. And they're often so focused on supporting everybody else around them. They don't feel like they have the time or the energy for their own like self-care. And then that can lead into the burnout and frustration or stress or grumpiness or whatever else. So in a situation like that, it might be something like, what would it take for me to be a calm and present parent today? A question like that, where you could ask yourself at any time of day and know that that's going to be kind of in the background of your thought process throughout the day. And you will be actively looking for ways to do that.
I love that because I like the self-inquiry aspect of that. That also seems pretty empowering, like just trusting that you have what you need inside of you. And just knowing that even the act of asking that question, whether it be before bed or throughout the day, will kind of set your subconscious mind to look for the answers. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
it's a
Yeah.
powerful thing, the subconscious. It's like the biggest Google Drive ever. So when you can actually get it working for you instead of against you, which is usually what happens when we're unaware of things that are unconscious or subconscious, which is natural, then it's a definite bonus.
I know sometimes when we are looking to make some changes or some transformations in our lives, some people take on almost this drill sergeant energy, like, I can't be fun and it has to be really hard and serious until I get to where I want to be. And personally, I'm always about finding ways to feel good on the journey, to feel good while I'm getting to where I want to go. How do you help clients shift their mindset if they're kind of in this like forcing hard on myself energy?
Yeah, we're so conditioned against using like pleasure and ease to accomplish our goals. That starts happening so early in our lives. It also conditions us out of using our intuition to figure things out. Honestly, by the time I get to working with somebody in their 30s, 40s, 50s, wherever they are in their life when they find me, one of the things I often hear is that people don't even know what they find pleasure in
Hmm.
because they were so conditioned out of it not being something that they could trust. Like you can't trust pleasure. It's frivolous. It's not something that's going to actually turn the gears on what you're trying to do. And instead, most of us were taught to hustle, to strive, to push, and to just keep going until the job is done, even if it's not pleasant. And I guess what I've learned is that through bringing more pleasure into my processes, I actually get to be more and do less, and more gets accomplished and it feels better and it attracts more of what I want in my life instead of keeping me separate from it. Again, back to that whole vibrational piece. So that's a lot of what I help other people to do, is to create pleasure fueled success instead of trying to motivate ourselves with the overwhelm and the anxiety, high functioning anxiety, even. Yeah.
Absolutely. For that woman who is like, whoa, that might be me. When you said women, a certain age kind of forget what even brings them pleasure. What's some ways we can start to recall and remember that?
Well, I mean, inner child work can be really fun for that, actually, and healing on a whole lot of other levels when you actually go back to what you enjoyed before you were taught not to enjoy, then it can bring up great ideas. I know in my own life, that's come full circle. I had my own like library in the basement. We had a card catalog and everything. Back in the day, my mom gave me like the rubber stamp and everything. We had due dates. I wrote books with my friends instead of like playing with Barbies. And then, I became a published author recently myself. So I got to bring that back around and enjoy that again. I used to love writing songs and playing music. And now I've incorporated my ability for lyricizing things into EFT tapping and hypnosis and things like that. But that brings me back to that inner child feeling and that joy that gave me to process things in that creative way. So you can look to your inner child. You can also just start experimenting, get out and try something you haven't tried before and see how it lands with you, whether it's a yoga class or rock climbing or meditation, different gatherings with friends, what have you, cooking class, something. Just see what actually starts to fuel you and make you feel like, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing, and give yourself to that a little bit more.
Absolutely. And you talked about how embracing this pleasure now, not waiting,
Mhm.
actually helps us step into this next version of ourselves. Can you go a little deeper into that? Because I still feel like a lot of people get stuck on this because it can feel counterintuitive, especially like you said, and I see that in my clients too. Like doing something just for fun, just to feel that sense of play or lightness is very foreign to some women.
Right. We have to realize like the way our brain functions. And so often our best thought processes, our best creativity, our best downloads are when we're not actually trying to use our brain. That's when we get all of that. That's why, like, when I go on a retreat or something, I block off time on my calendar when I come back because I know I'm going to be energized in a totally different way, not jump right back into work and the daily grind, but give time to process and integrate. And it's that conditioning again, but we've been conditioned that pleasure is supposed to be a reward for when the work is done. As moms, as entrepreneurs, when is the work ever done? So my invitation is just to like revisit that conditioning because most likely everything you've been taught about productivity either came from like the man's world, a 24-hour cycle versus a monthly cycle, and also is probably a lie.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I feel like it's just been eye-opening in my own journey. I really have shifted from past corporate career where it was like just constant hustle. What can I get done? Checking off. And I've really completely overhauled my life. And I'm really about building my schedule around more ease. But it really has to be a shift for me of knowing that my times of being intentionally not, traditionally productive are oftentimes the most important aspects of me making leaps in my life. I feel like people talk about like taking a break or taking a rest. And it's like that almost feels superficial to me. It's just like a deep belief that you will be much better for yourself and others when you invest in this lightness and this ease and play. How do you embody that in your own life and invite in space to receive versus being in the doing mode?
Yeah. So the doing mode usually is paired with resistance. There's usually a resistance of some kind that is there. So even like when looking at like pleasure, for example, like I have a great EFT round that you can find in my free school community that's literally about busting through your resistance to allowing pleasure to fuel your success. Like that's totally a thing because we'll say that we want to do more of that. That sounds great. But then there's that conditioning, there's that resistance. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to push through it and get it done. And so then you never actually get to lean in and be held in the being, and you're always in the doing. And the doing is more of like your masculine energy. It's more of the pushing, and the being is much more of like the feminine receiving energy and being able to process that and alchemize that. So for me, making that happen is first about noticing my resistance because, I've been at this for a while. I still get resistant to it. And if I have that resistance, working with nourishing my nervous system to release that so that I can relax into a different way of being. Also, it means that I schedule things that are pleasurable and relaxing on my calendar before I schedule the other things, because otherwise you will overwrite that white space every time. And also about just leaving white space on your calendar. Your calendar does not need to be booked solid every day in order for you to be successful, in order for you to be profitable, in order for you to be a good parent, any of those things. And I think as parents too, it's so important to show that being busy all the time isn't how we think things should be, because then we're just teaching our kids to repeat the cycle instead of learning how to do this at a younger age so that they don't end up like us, in this high functioning anxiety, hustle and strive kind of state.
So much in there resonates with me. That's been a big part of my personal journey, is just unwinding from that. And it's really hard to know when you're in the thick of just being in the doing, of always needing to fill in the blank space, feeling like you always have to be in that achieving, doing, accomplishing mode. It's really hard to recognize it until you get a little spaciousness from it. That is, I think, something that's been really important for me in my own journey, is that I'm more aware and I catch myself quickly when I get into that vibration of just doing, forcing. I think we all need some masculine and feminine energy for a balance,
Nice
of course.
balance is great.
But when I tip into that old patterning, I try to become self-aware more quickly, and I try to pattern interrupt and kind of stop myself and catch myself more quickly.
Yeah.
How do you pattern interrupt when you kind of catch yourself getting into that mode?
Well, when I notice it, then I normally pause. And for me, my go-to is EFT tapping. So meridian endpoint tapping to regulate the nervous system, to lower the cortisol, to be able to shift gears and have more of that neuroplasticity, that resiliency, and feel different. For me and for most of the people that embrace this technique, also, the shifts happen really quick within a few minutes, and then I can literally show up differently in my life. So that's my favorite pattern interrupt.
I know that we could do an entire deep dive separate podcast on EFT, and it's a tool that also has really given me a lot of benefits. And I appreciate, for people that have never heard of EFT or emotional freedom technique, can you just give us a little bit more explanation? So if listeners want to check it out or check it out through you, they can kind of have a little bit more grounding and understanding.
Absolutely. So EFT combines ancient Chinese medicine with modern day psychology. It's a method that has been around, actually a series of techniques, not just a method, that have been around since the 90s. So not new by any means. And the ancient Chinese medicine part of it is the meridian endpoints that we tap on. So basically the theory is that any dis-ease we have in our bodies, and that could be stress about something, like where you're having anxiety, that's a disease, or it could be actually a physical health issue or anything in between. The cause of that is an energetic blockage in the meridian endpoints. So we tap on these, and these are the same places where if you went for acupuncture, they'd insert a needle, but we don't need any needles for this. We're just using fingertips and the different parts of the body to tap lightly, and we speak to the issue. So whatever it is that we're looking to change, in this case, we might be saying something like, even though I'm resistant to letting this be easy, I want to love, accept, and forgive myself. We start with like a setup phrase, and then we talk through all the things. We might talk about that nasty voice that's inside your head that's telling you that you need to push or hustle, or that this isn't the way, or whatever, and really giving a true, genuine voice to the negativity that's inside so that it can come up and out the way that emotions want to, instead of getting pushed down the way most of us have been taught to just, keep them inside. And through just like I said, a few minutes of doing that, studies have shown you can lower your stress hormones up to 43%. And I love the technique because it has this cool phenomenon called borrowed benefits, which means that if maybe I'm tapping on what I just talked about, where I'm resisting letting things be full of ease and pleasure and everything else. And also I twisted my ankle the other day or something, and I'm having this physical pain. I'll probably notice that not only am I more open to ease and pleasure at the end, but also my ankle might feel a little bit better when I'm done. So you get that borrowed benefit. You're working on one thing, concentrating on one thing, but other things are improving because it's your whole system that is being affected. You send a signal right to the amygdala when you start doing tapping. And that's where fight, flight, flee, flop, all the F's happen up there. And we can calm that. And then this new rational, logical voice and perspective can see things in a different way, feel things in a different way. And that's how you end up with a different feeling at the end than you did at the beginning.
Thank you for that beautiful explanation. I definitely encourage listeners to check out EFT if that's not something they've explored. And I will just add from my personal experience that I like that it can be subtle. You know, sometimes we catch ourselves in an emotional state that we don't want to be in, and you can step into a bathroom and tap for a minute. I feel like people can even tap under the Thanksgiving dinner table if they're in the middle of a
totally
dysregulating conversation, you know?
There's meridian endpoints on the sides of each of our fingertips also. So that's one of the things I teach a lot of people when they know that they're going to have a phobia or a fear or an issue in public or around family or what have you. If you have a coat, a sweater, a pocket in your sweatshirt, something like that, you can literally just be tapping through those points while you're thinking, not even saying out loud the thoughts that are going through your head.
She's showing us a little tapping on the edge of her fingers. Yes. Okay.
It doesn't help people that are just listening, but yes.
No, that's okay.
Sides of your finger where your nail bed meets the side of your finger on every one of your fingers and that's honestly, that's also the reason why a lot of people like to bite their nails, because it's soothing, because those are meridian endpoints right there and you get to get really close to them and when you're biting your nails. And that's what a lot of people are attracted to in that habit.
That's interesting. Okay. So EFT, I want to circle back. You've talked about pleasure. You've also talked about becoming a vibrational match for what we want to attract.
Sure.
Tell us more about this.
Yeah. So every emotion that we can experience has a different vibration to it. Things that are really low on the scale are going to be like shame and guilt and blame and hopelessness. And those have a very low vibration. They're also kind of like survival paradigm sort of things. And then at the other end, the really high vibe thoughts and feelings are that of enlightenment. That would be the highest, and peace and joy and love and revelation, all of those kind of things that feel like light and airy and good. Those are on the higher end. And then it's interesting because right in the middle, and it's a scale, and it's a scale for a reason, because in order to kind of get from one end to the other, you have to go through everything. You know, nobody jumps from shame to enlightenment. That's not how that works. And the thing I see so much with women and moms is avoidance of anger. Mm. And when we don't know how to be empowered and get our anger to become fuel for those higher energy things, then we end up sinking back down to the lower half of that vibrational scale again. And in the middle of that scale, you have courage on the upper side and pride right below it. So it's an interesting thing. And then anger is like right below that. So the anger has to be able to transform up the scale in order for you to get to the acceptance, the forgiveness, all those good things that people want to experience. We have to go through that portal. So I oftentimes am, hearing from people that, oh, but I was taught, it wasn't okay to be angry, or it wasn't safe for me to have those feelings, or, bad things happen when I get angry and not my place to be angry. And so many women have kind of played small, not expressed themselves, stuffed things down. And that does tend to show up in greater impacts in our health, our mental health, our physical health, spiritual health, all of that when we don't know how to do that. So definitely looking at your relationship with anger can be a huge portal into feeling better.
Mm-hmm. I want to go into a few things you mentioned. I feel like in my work with women, I've noticed that it's not only a horrible feeling to be in those low vibrational states. Shame, guilt is another one that's very frequent in my communities when I'm working with clients. But I feel like women kind of give themselves a double whammy because they seem to, and maybe men too, but my work happens to be with women. I notice in my women communities, especially my mom communities, that women not only sometimes have that resentment, that guilt, that shame, whatever, and then they feel bad about feeling bad. And it just is emphasizes and comes down on that energy. What do you have to say about when women recognize they're kind of in a low vibrational state? It's not realistic. And I know we both know to just jump, to like expect to be flying from the sky because all of a sudden your kids walk in the door. That's not realistic. How do you balance honoring where you are in your anger or your emotion, but also being empowered to tiptoe back up to something that feels better?
So I think it's important to create safe space for acknowledgement, helping moms understand that like all of those feelings are valid and they all there's a role, a function, a purpose, and an intention for every feeling that we have. And some of those feelings have been with us for a lifetime, trying to keep us safe from something that they don't even need to keep us safe from anymore. That's where the subconscious mind part comes in, where we can rewire things. But yeah, all those feelings are valid. The resentment, the guilt, the frustration, and they're simply signals. So when we allow ourselves to acknowledge them without judgment, then we get to take that first step in healing. And so often, like I would look again to like EFT tapping on statements like, even though I feel guilty for feeling resentful, I deeply and completely accept myself. Things like that might help to release some of that initial tension. And then to be able to just, once you can explore and acknowledge the guilt, the resentment, then you can get curious about what those feelings are actually trying to communicate to you. Oftentimes resentment's going to point to some kind of like unmet need, a boundary maybe that you haven't created or protected for yourself. And when you examine those things compassionately instead of with shame, then moms especially can begin to like see where they need more support and really see where they need more time and more space for themselves.
Makes a lot of sense. I know that we all are going to have days where we are just in a funk, whether it be world events, things happening in our family. I know you are conscious about your vibration. Is there anything unexpected, maybe any unexpected practices or habits you incorporate in your life when you're like, okay, I'm going to get out of this funk. I'm going to be conscious about it. I'll acknowledge it, but I'm also like going to take a conscious action to raise my vibration. What are some of your favorite things to do?
Naked dancing?
Yes.
Or like a good like pillow rage fight. like literally I put on some like Rage Against the Machine, grab a pillow and just let it come out in a safe space like your bedroom. So naked optional. But yeah, those are probably two unexpected things, but they're very transformative.
All right. We'll take it. We'll take it. I appreciate that. I want to make sure we have a little bit of time to talk about mental rehearsal. I know that we all kind of know the cliched, oh, there's the athlete in the locker room picturing the free throw. But since you have this deep knowledge of the subconscious mind, can you help us understand a little bit of how mental rehearsal actually works and where and how we might incorporate it in our day-to-day lives in a little bit more of a meaningful way?
Yeah. I mean, mentally rehearsing things, especially goals and aspirations that you have, it's super powerful. And yeah, I mean, your whole athlete in the locker room thing is what most people think of, I think. And Olympians have been a great example of how well this works because it's just as effective to go through something mentally as it is to go through it physically. Something that people tend to overlook when they do this is that when we are rehearsing things mentally, it needs to take the same time as it would take in real life. So if we go back to that example again, if we were a gymnast and we were visualizing our routine on the bars or something, and it's a 3-minute routine, that visualization and that mental rehearsal needs to also take 3 minutes. You're going through it in real time mentally. You can't just like, it's done. Like you have to actually give it the time and then the emotions. And mentally rehearsing things, having the feeling aligned is super important too. So if you're wanting to be on a vacation in some tropical place, think of the exact island you want to be on, the way it feels, what you're wearing, the drink you're holding in your hand, where you're going, the activities that you're doing, feel it. Be there as much as you can be in your mind as you're visualizing and get really, really clear on that vision. So that just means you're going beyond just like the outcome and just, again, connecting with the feelings, the details, the experience, and also what it's going to feel like when you achieve it. Because I know Neville Goddard was always big on talking about the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And I love his work. And when we align with the feeling of the thing that we want already happening, then we're in the vibration that it already happened. And that tells the universe, it tells our brain, our subconscious, our nervous system, everything that it's safe to let this thing happen and that it's already on the way.
I love that you brought that up, the wish fulfilled piece. I'm familiar with that work. And I feel like that is a key piece that's often missing when people, whether they're doing affirmation or visualization or all this thing, is not energetically feeling like it can be a truth in their body. Do you see that?
Yeah, absolutely. And, the other thing that I think I should have probably mentioned as I was answering that question was that you can't just visualize. Like manifestation 101 is like, yes, the mental rehearsal primes your subconscious, but that's going to work best when it's paired with real world action that complements it. Whatever, even small steps align with your goal are going to reinforce your belief in your mind that it's actually attainable. So that's really important, or else you step into that whole thing we were talking about with affirmations, where you have that goal trauma, and then you're no longer working towards the goal, but you're shying away from it. So when you take action, your mind's going to be more open to stepping outside of your comfort zone because it's already practiced the success internally.
So I know we are on the cusp of holiday season. It's kind of upon us. And most people see themselves going into the holidays, connecting with the people they love and being kind of in a playful, high vibration state. What is your plan for bringing that energy and maintaining that energy during a time when we all want to feel sparkly and joyful? But let's be honest, like a lot of women, especially moms, can navigate a lot of extra stress and pressure.
Release your attachment to the outcome. It's about as simple as it can be, but also really difficult because since we've been kids, we've probably been attaching expectation to holidays, whether it was the gifts we wanted to receive or the way that we wanted to feel or whatever else. And now we do the same thing. And it feels so good to just let it go, though, to not feel like a holiday dinner needs to be anything specific or any particular standard, to let go of all the BS connected with the gift giving and all that stuff and just be there. Your kids, all they really want to do is be with you. They honestly don't really care about all that additional stuff. And all you really want to do is be with the people that you love. So wherever you can cut the stress out and cut the extra obligations and the stuff that doesn't feel good anyway, most people are usually pretty excited to hear that, like, you don't want to go over the top with all the things. And I don't know, whatever you can do to make things easier for yourself and to cut away from the expectations, you can enjoy yourself so much more and be so much less stressed out.
I love that shoulds are canceled for the holidays.
Yes.
And I feel like it, for some reason, when you were talking it was reminding me of how we've all been to a wedding where it's like low key and joyful and the bride is having a wonderful time. So everyone's having a wonderful time. And I've been to beautiful weddings where the bride is just on edge and stressed and not enjoying herself. And it kind of sabotages the energy. I was drawing a parallel in my mind as you were talking about that almost being like the mother, like you can either show up and just be like, well, the turkey's burnt, but I'm going to laugh it off and enjoy, or you can be high strung. But I think we have to make a conscious choice. And I love what you said about our kids just really kind of wanting to us to be happily connected with them and being present. So thank you for that. I know we've covered a lot of territory in terms of many practices for manifesting a joyful, kind of empowered life in the area of harnessing, pleasure and high frequency as we go about creating this vision or casting this beautiful vision for our lives. What's one question women could be asking themselves more?
They could be asking themselves what they actually want instead of what they think everybody else wants. And that's going to take them back to that exploration I was talking about more, where you can look into more of like what you find joy in, what you actually like to do. But yeah, when you're finding yourself overburdened, especially on the holiday season, and your to-do list seems crazy and everything else, ask yourself if the things that are on that list actually align with what you want. And if they align with the outcomes that you'd like for your life. If what you really want is peace and connection and to feel, fulfilled and supported during the holiday season, Are there some things on there that maybe you just don't even need to do till next year or maybe never? It's amazing how many things we use to just fill time in our schedules that don't even connect with our goals or our dreams or our aspirations. And in fact, they're taking away our ability to achieve those things that mean the most to us.
That is a beautiful place to end. And I couldn't be more aligned with that. I often talk about, things, especially like all the holiday to-dos, like public outings, like big things, going to see things. Sometimes if you're craving more peace, it's okay to just be like, yeah, we don't have to do that this year. And it can be a beautiful sense of relief for moms. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that reflection. Well, Theresa, I know that people are going to want to find you, follow you, and learn more about EFT and your hypnotherapy work. So can you tell us, you're welcome to share if there's something right now that's alive that you're offering that you want to talk about, and also just let us know where we can find you, follow you, and continue to learn from you.
Great. Awesome. I would love to give something. So, for anybody who is actually wanting to explore these modalities further and understand how they relate to, like your own challenges, your own stresses and goals and your vision for the future, I'd love to offer you a free nervous system and subconscious mind breakthrough session. This is an opportunity to meet with me one-on-one. So you can be anywhere in the world to take advantage of this, get my support and my guidance, unlocking the next steps on your journey through transformative modalities. There's nothing to buy. It's all about you. And it's about giving you aligned support and insights that you need the most when we meet. And you can schedule that really easily by just sending me an email to Theresa, it's THERESA at Theresa Lear, Lear, Levine, Levine.com. And so Theresa at TheresaLearLevine.com. You can send me whatever lovely message you like, but all you really need to send me is 2 words. Electric ideas. If you send me that in the subject line, I'm going to know that you reached out because you heard this here. I'll reply and I will help you get that transformative one-on-one session scheduled. But if you're not ready for that and you would like to check out more resources, then I encourage you to join my free community. I have an awesome free community on School, and you can join it by going to school.com, and that's spelled SKOOL.com/discovery. Then type in my name, Theresa Lear Levine, and you'll see the Becoming More Me community pop right up there. I have all my best resources in there, absolutely free, that you can access in the classroom. You can try out EFT tapping, hypnotherapy, a whole bunch of different things. I do free weekly coaching in there. So I encourage you to join there.
Wonderful. This has been a pleasure. And thank you for being so generous with listeners. I'm sure you'll have some new followers. Thank you for being here and your time.
Appreciate it, Whitney.
I'm so glad you joined me today. If you're looking for more, feel free to connect with me on Instagram at @WhitneyWoman. And if you enjoyed the show, I invite you to support me by leaving a review or sharing it with a friend. Hope you have an inspired day.